Consider a tangled magnetic cassette tape resting next to a simple wooden pencil. For one demographic, this image triggers an immediate, almost mechanical reflex. You insert the pencil into the reel to wind the tape back. For younger cohorts, however, this is an incomprehensible artifact. It is a pairing that demands an external search engine just to decode. We do not observe this discrepancy out of mere nostalgia, we utilize it as a diagnostic tool. It immediately establishes a baseline for our analysis today, exposing the mechanics of generational cognition and how distinct cohorts interface with their physical and digital environments.
Our objective in this explainer is not to evaluate artificial intelligence as a commercial software product. Instead, we are analyzing a profound cognitive disruption, the outsourcing of human agency. We must systematically examine how our deepening technological dependency threatens independent reasoning. The central question is whether humanity is inadvertently surrendering the intellectual labor it is fundamentally required to perform.
Section 1. The epistemological shift. To comprehend the scale of this shift, we must establish a rigorous sociological taxonomy of the generation gap. In academic terms, this is not a superficial matter of older individuals failing to grasp new software. It is strictly defined as significant differences between age cohorts in values, attitudes, behaviors, and technology use emerging from distinct historical experiences. Technology in this analytical context does not merely alter the physical tools we use, it actively rewires our fundamental cognitive processes.
The empirical framework categorizes this transition clearly. We observe Generation X functioning as digital immigrants. Millennials serve as a transitional cohort. Generation Z represents the digital natives. And Generation Alpha, born from 2013 onward, are classified as emerging AI natives. This taxonomy maps a stark, undeniable trajectory. We are rapidly moving from a society reliant on analog learning habits to a reality where artificial intelligence acts as an intrinsic component of human thought.
Consider two distinct cognitive baselines. For digital immigrants, whose early development unfolded in an analog world of books and handwritten notes, technology was adapted later in life. It functioned purely as a tool to assist an already structured, active method of information synthesis. Contrast this with digital natives. For them, technology is not a secondary tool, it is the default environment. Within this ecosystem of broadband and algorithmic feeds, the consumption of knowledge becomes fragmented. It is normalized into bite-sized media, a shift that correlates directly with documented, measurable declines in long-form reading and sustained attention.
Section 2. Mutation of critical thinking.
This environmental shift forces a mutation of critical thinking, ultimately engineering a dangerous modern illusion. Historically, workplace training focused on mastering search keywords. Now, that skill is rapidly mutating into prompt engineering. We must systematically deconstruct the fallacy that inputting instructions into a large language model is intellectually equivalent to critical reasoning. We are witnessing the mimicry of intellect, not the exercise of it.
Section 3. The outsourcing of judgment.
The direct consequence of this cognitive fallacy is the wholesale surrender of decision-making to algorithms. We possess white-box empirical proof of this failure across multiple institutions. Observe the symptoms. Individuals blindly following AI-generated travel advice, only to commit critical visa violations. Vulnerable users developing severe emotional dependencies on conversational chatbots. Practicing lawyers submitting fraudulent hallucinated case citations to federal courts. Researchers polluting academic literature with non-existent references. These are not mere software glitches. They are profound, almost clinical failures in human oversight.
Therefore, we arrive at the core thesis of this analysis. The fundamental hazard facing modern society is not the computational capability of the machine. It is the willingness of the human operator to abandon their own capacity to determine truth. Society demands the immense productivity benefits of artificial intelligence, yet completely ignores a basic prerequisite. Those benefits require a human capable of drawing the absolute line between empirical fact and algorithmic hallucination.
This systemic vulnerability can be understood through a foundational software principle: garbage in, garbage out. AI systems scale their apparent intelligence by training on vast repositories of human-generated content. But if human understanding becomes shallow, fragmented, and entirely outsourced to algorithms, we cease the active synthesis of new ideas. The tool does not automatically grant intelligence. It merely magnifies existing capabilities. The knowledge will become highly effective. Those lacking foundational domain knowledge simply become more efficiently wrong.
Section 4. Threat to collective democracy.
When large segments of a population become efficiently wrong, we face a macro-social impact that threatens collective democracy. The structural loss of independent judgment fundamentally destabilizes collective decision-making. If the electorate can no longer distinguish synthesized information from convincing nonsense, societal structures face imminent collapse. This forces us to interrogate the cognitive future of Generation Alpha. Children born after 2013 will utilize AI tutors before they can read independently. They will be handed curated answers long before developing the habit of asking their own questions. They will undoubtedly become the most proficient prompters in human history. But we must ask a deeply uncomfortable question. Will they also become better thinkers or merely dependent operators of an external brain?
The cognitive distinction here is absolute. Generating an answer is a mechanical process of producing an output. Understanding an answer requires human retention, critical questioning, and the integration of new data with existing knowledge architectures. A student who commands an AI to summarize a topic like photosynthesis may receive a flawless explanation. But if they retain nothing, question nothing, and synthesize nothing, the process merely mimics learning while functioning as its exact opposite.
Section 5. The Human Imperative.
To prevent this trajectory of intellectual atrophy, we must fiercely validate the human imperative. Human agency remains the sole necessary bulwark against the deterioration of independent reasoning. This dynamic is explicitly visible even at the absolute peak of the AI industry itself. The geopolitical realities surrounding artificial intelligence, involving government incentives, global supply chains, investor risk, and entities like NVIDIA, is not dictated by algorithms. High-stakes strategic positioning certainly requires navigating technical constraints, but ultimately, these structures are driven strictly by human negotiation, political compromise, and strategic leadership.
The deal was never closed by AI. Humans closed the deal. Even at the absolute epicenter of the algorithmic revolution, ultimate strategic, political, and ethical actions demand independent human judgment. History indicates that the primary danger is not the rise of intelligent machines. The severe existential danger is that while building these machines, humanity gradually ceases to exercise its own intellect.
To preserve the purity of independent reasoning, this 10-minute overview is merely an entry point. The complete article is fully documented on our Blogger site. For a deeper, heavy intellectual debate on the outsourcing of cognitive agency, tune into our extended podcast episode. All academic infrastructure links are consolidated in the description below. Before you click away, ask yourself, the last time you searched for an answer, did you actually learn it, or did you just rent it from a machine?